Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we're faced with 200 pages of legislation, sometimes it's very difficult for us to put a human face on what the implications of this legislation mean. And I'm here today to do just that. My constituents elected me to be a strong voice for them here in Ottawa, and guess what? Today I'm going to do that. And I want to give the people in this House a little lesson on what it's like to be in Alberta right now, and what this means for the people in my riding. 20% of Canada's GDP in 2014 was produced by Alberta, which represents only 12% of the Canadian population. We've always punched above our weight. We've always done our part. We've always supported the concept of Canada as a greater whole, and we've never complained about it. Other people in other parts of the country have looked at us and derided our industries, but we always contribute to Canada. We've always been there for Canada. We contribute billions of dollars of equalization payments to prop up failed governments like the Ontario Liberals, who spend billions of dollars on wasteful projects, and still we don't complain. But Alberta and the people in my riding are not just these numbers, they're people. And right now, thousands of them are out of work, thousands of them. In a little over a year, in just about a year's period, Alberta, and especially Calgary, especially my riding, went from the natural rate of unemployment to nearly 10% unemployment. Think about that for a second. Think about what it means for a region to have such a dramatic, significant decrease in employment in such a short period of time. It means that everybody's affected. Yep. You don't know anybody who doesn't have somebody out of work. Yeah. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your spouse, it's your kid, it's your neighbor, it's your babysitter, it's your teacher, it's everything, it's everybody. And do you know what that does to a community? That devastates a community. It takes the soul out of a community. When I go home and when I talk to people, they are furious because they want to work. We are a proud people. We don't want lip service from this government here. We want action, because the very soul of our province depends upon it. 30% vacancy rate in downtown Calgary. Do you know what that means? That means that swaths, just whole floors of downtown Calgary are vacant right now. And when you visualize that, you think about all the people who are sitting at home right now who just want to work, who just want to contribute to the Canadian economy, but they can't. Every once in a while, I'll hold a job or a career services fair in my riding, and I usually have, a few dozen people show up. And this is a service fair where we have educational institutions come, different employers. I had over 500 people show up on a Saturday morning. There was a wait list to get into this event at a church. That's how bad it is. These are people who can't pay their child support payments. Their vehicles are being repossessed, and we're coming into Christmas. Their credit cards are maxed out, their severance has run out, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet for their family. They're not even looking at Christmas presents right now. Our food bank usage is going up. And Mr. Speaker, in our local newspaper, there was a giant front page story about how women in Calgary are having to go into prostitution to make ends meet. Do you know what it's like to come home to a spouse who hasn't worked for a year? Do you know what that's like? I hope no one in this place has to feel that, because that is what's happening in my riding right now. And yet we have this. We have this right here. And you know what this has? Sweet fudge all for my riding. Nothing. Yeah. Nothing. They look at this and they say, where is our government? Why aren't we in here? Yeah. There's nothing here for them except this, There's something, all right. I'm sorry, constituents, there's something for you. There's a giant increase in your taxes. You're down, you're out, you've paid your dues, but this government wants to take more of your hard-earned money to waste on their ineffective and inefficient government. Okay, so let's talk about that. How are they going to take more of your money? First of all, they're implementing a carbon tax. There is no space with this government to have a pragmatic debate about climate change. And there's no space with this government to have a pragmatic debate about the people in my riding who are unemployed in the energy sector right now. They've been called dirty. Yeah. This government uses things like clean jobs or dirty jobs. It's a moral statement on the lives of my people in my riding. So when this government introduces or implements a $50 a ton, megaton price on carbon, what does that do? Is that actually going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions? No. Can they produce any data on price elasticity of carbon that shows that demand is actually going to decrease at that price? No, they can't. So what does that mean? It means that they're essentially implementing a GST, an increase in the GST, at a time when our province is in dire straits. Yeah. That's a big fallacy and it's a big problem, and it's all right here. Gift to you, Alberta. The other thing that this government's trying to do right now is they want to cripple small business. This government made a big song and dance around small business a year ago. They tried to court them. But at a time when, and this survey came out today, 94% of the small businesses in Alberta have no faith in our provincial government. 94%. There's a great indicator to show that we should invest in business in Alberta. 94% of small businesses don't have faith in the provincial government. This government is doing what? Carbon tax. A carbon tax, yes, of course they're doing that. That's very helpful at this point in time. They're increasing CPP premiums. That amounts to a payroll tax. That, in this business climate, is a small business choice between saying, should I keep 2 employees or 1 employee? Exactly. That is what that is code for. They're raising EI premiums. This is what this government is doing with this. This is not a plan. This is a 200-page roadmap on how to waste my constituents' money. So I can't support that. Why isn't the government talking about how to retain skilled labor? Why isn't the infrastructure minister talking about how to implement infrastructure funds and get construction workers back to work in Alberta? Why does this government treat Alberta like a fart in the room that nobody wants to talk about or acknowledge? That is where my constituents have been at with this government for over a year. And you know what? We're tired of it. We watched what happened. I watched what happened in Brexit. Oh, and by the way, constituents, as I'm giving this speech, there's Liberal members across the aisle that are laughing at me. Yep. And they're laughing at you. Yep. I watched what happened in Brexit. And I know that if we don't have a space to talk about where all people can prosper, where we don't make value judgments on the efficacy of an industry or what its role is. If we don't have a pragmatic conversation, if it's just a top-down dictated policy from elite academics that don't humanize what's happening, then we failed as our role as legislators. And I'm not going to let that happen. I really hope that this government will rethink this carbon tax in light of what's happening in the US. I absolutely support a smart climate change policy that doesn't negatively impact our province and our country. And the other thing that I hope that this government will do is, as they roll out this tax increase mess, is that they stop denigrating my constituents and they start standing up for all regions of this country, including Alberta. And when they stand here and say, oh, it's just commodity prices, oh, it's just going to rebound, that's not the case. When they say, oh, companies support our carbon tax, they realize that the industry isn't CEOs, it's the workers, it's the people that are sitting out of work at home right now. That's who we need to help. You know, the reality is, Mr. Speaker, we're a proud people. We'll do our part. We'll stand up for what's right. We'll stand up for the country. But our voices will be heard. We will not be silent. And I encourage all of my constituents who want their voices to be heard to participate in the Alberta Jobs Task Force, which my Conservative colleagues in Alberta have implemented. And I encourage them to come out, write these MPs from downtown Toronto who stand up here and say, it's okay. They're dirty jobs. We don't need to worry about them. Because this is about Canada. And if we don't stand up for Alberta, if we don't have a strong Alberta, we don't have a strong Canada.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the point of order. The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Interrupt my friend in her speech, but I heard her say a word that I know is distinctly unparliamentary, and I think she may want to withdraw it. The word was F-A-R-T.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Are you serious, Mr. Speaker? Like, is my colleague actually serious? I just gave an impassioned speech about supporting Alberta jobs, and that's what the leader of a political party stands up and has to say? No, I don't withdraw it.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
I have a lot to say about the content of my friend's speech. I am deeply concerned, as are all people in this place, for Canadians who are hurting from economic downturn. I would like to speak to that, but the first important, excuse me.
Did the Honourable Member for Calgary Signal Hill want to respond to that?
It's Calgary Nose Hill, but close enough.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Green Party has been probably one of the most vocal opponents of every part of the Alberta economy for the last 10 years, so I will take no lessons from her on this matter.